It's been 2 years since I last did a best couples board games list, and I figured it was time for an update. Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is top 10 couples games, sort of, mostly, with caveats and explanations. Top 10 couples games with basically 2 or 3 or 14 caveats that I'll have. The first is this is specifically focused on lighter games. If you're looking for something heavier, more medium weight, more heavyweight, I might do another video. I might try to do even 2 more videos. Maybe one for medium, one for heavy. We'll see. I may try to specifically have more videos on this. So if you're looking for, hey, where's that game and where's this game? One of 2 things is happening. One of 3 things is happening. Either I think it belongs in a different category, let it a little more heavier, medium, whatnot, or I forgot about it, or I just don't agree with you. All those are possible. So that's what this list is. Top 10 couples games with a focus on a lighter slant, with a focus on a greater degree of accessibility to them, which means if that's not what you're looking for, that's fine. I'll have more videos on the subject coming at some point over the next several months, weeks, years, days, one of those categories. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, about 2 years ago, one of the earlier videos I did on the channel was top 10 couples games. And this is kind of an update to that. That video was also focused on lighter games for the most part. This one is more of an update to that. To that end, I believe I have 2 of the same games from that still on this list, maybe 3. I can't recall if I put 1, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and dive into it. I'll link to that down below in case you want to see the difference in thoughts. All those games in that video are amazing. I took a look. I still like them all, but this is just what I would currently choose now. Obviously, personal opinions are very much in here, so are just opinions about what I think would work well for couples, or this or that, or any 2 players recently who are looking for lighter, but still intriguing and enjoyable 2-player experiences. And with that, let's start this off with number 11, because of course this is number 11. Number 11 is going to be Almanac the Dragon Road. And this is number 11 because I think it really is much better at 3 players. I think this game thrives at 3 players. I think there's actually a pretty decent drop-off at 4, but at 2 players, I still think it's very enjoyable and a solid gateway adjacent, coupley, exploratory experience. In Almanac the Dragon Road, what you're going to be doing in this game is you're going to be basically doing a worker placement system. You're using workers placement as you place down your workers in order to go on locations, but the part that makes this game interesting, the thing that makes Almanac the Dragon Road stand out, is its worker placement with a flipbook. You have a flipbook, and every single round you go to another page. There's 6 rounds in the game, so you have your starting page, and then from there, you're just branching off into this pathway as you explore different regions. As you say, hey, we're going to go here, and then there, and then this. Which means the flipbook has something like 17 or 18 pages, and you're only going to see 6 in a single game, and the configuration of pages that you see will vary completely game to game. So it's lightweight, it's accessible, it's got variety to no end, it has a degree of exploration as you wander from page to page, it has a degree of story and minimal story, but a bit of adventures you're going to go through as you wander from location to location, encountering various things. It is very charming. Very, like when I review this game, I'm pretty sure I used the word charming 1,723 times because the game is charming. There's also Almanac the Crystal Peaks, which I have but have not played yet. But Almanac the Dragon's Road is a very, very solid. Highly recommend this one as a 2-player, light, accessible, and yet enjoyable experience. The only reason it's number 11 is because I really think it's better with 3. Like, really, to the point that I was like, I should not put it on this list. But what if I make it number 11? That's Almanac the Dragon Road. Number 10, starting on the actual list, is going to be Spirits of the Wild. Spirits of the Wild, which is a game that I've actually softened on this one, but then again, I've played it enough times that it makes sense that I've softened on this one. But I still think it's an excellent gateway coupley game. Spirits of the Wild is about set collection. You're trying to collect sets of gems, and you're doing so by gathering gems from a little pool, a little bowl, and using the abilities of the cards to gather various gems. You have your own cards, you have spirit cards, you can be using those cards, flipping them over in order to gather gems and take them to yourself. And you're just trying to figure out how to set those things up. Are you trying to go for a set of 5 of one color, 5 different colors, a 2 and a 3, multiple pairs? There's all these configurations you can go for as you try to gather the gems and also try to double the scoring of any one region. You can lock in these scoring gems. The problem is those doubling gems, once you hit a certain point, the game end will trigger and you're going to have to figure out whether you were actually going for enough or whether the jar closed around your hand before you can get out with enough points. Spirits of the Wild is delightful. It's out of print right now, so apologies in advance for, I think most of these, for the record, I think most of these are in print and available, but Spirits of the Wild is one that is out of print and a little harder and more expensive to get your hands on, but I think it's a very, very solid gateway coupley game. I think this is excellent. If you're looking for a 2-player experience that will make you think, make you have a little bit of tension back and forth between the players as you grab different things, as you're mindful not just what you're going for in the game, but also what they're going for in the game, I think Spirits of the Wild will work well for you. Number 9 is going to be Dice Throne. Period. I was going to say Dice Throne Rerolled, but really just Dice Throne. Dice Throne, no, it's number 9. Any of the Dice Thrones. If you like Marvel, go for Marvel Dice Throne that just came out. If you like more fantasy standard stuff, check out any of the previous Season 1 or Season 2 and see which boxes appeal to you. There's a whole bunch out there. But Dice Throne is just fun. It's two-player fun. I mean, you could theoretically play this game with more than 2 players, but it's two-player fun. This is Yahtzee. You're going to be rolling your dice. You're going to choose a character from how many characters you have. You can buy a 2-character box set. You can buy a ton more characters. Then you start rolling dice against one another. Each character has their own abilities, their own upgrade deck, their own way that they play. Some degree of overlap and similarities between each character, and some degrees of what makes them actually feel different, the unique status effects, the tokens, all that. And that's where Dice Throne does have a little bit more management. I wondered briefly whether to put this in, lightweight and accessible, because there's a little bit more going on as far as status effects. But I think the core gameplay is simple enough that it still belongs in this category, and it's appealing enough and engaging enough because it's basically Yahtzee. Every single round you roll your dice, then you choose how many you want to reroll, then you choose how many you want to reroll, and then you're locked in, and now it's time to activate one of the various abilities you have. You may have been going for that one, but maybe you only got this one. You may have been going for the full straight, but maybe you got a short straight, or a large straight, a short, large, small straight. That's the word I'm looking for. You're trying to get those combinations, and you use your cards to augment and adjust it to potentially get your ultimate and then to wreak havoc on your opponent. Dice Throne is incredibly compelling. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and fun is the key word I'll use for this game because I think it is lighter on the strategy. I think as you go to certain characters, there's more opportunities to play strategically, but most of the characters I think rank a little easier and end up playing fairly basically. But you do have a fun time doing so. You have a fun time attacking your opponent, going head-to-head, taking them down, blocking them with your defense, doing what you need to do. I find Dice Throne rewarding. The art pulls you in like no tomorrow. The character variety is very solid. They have a full set of Marvel Dice Throne if you're looking for something with an IP that you like. Marvel Dice Throne, or Dice Throne in general, I should say, is going to be my number 9. My number 8 is going to be Canvas. Canvas is my number 8, and Canvas is... I love this game. I do. And I wrote it off initially. And it is very light. To be very clear, it's a very light game, as are most of the games on this table. They're supposed to be for the nature of this list. But Canvas from Road to Infamy Games is a game that I initially saw this on Kickstarter and thought, hey, that doesn't look like there's enough of a game there. It looks like it's focusing on a gimmick specifically in the fact that you are building out a canvas. In Canvas, you have these acrylic see-through cards. I don't know if they're acrylic see-through cards, plastic see-through cards that you layer on top of one another. So you layer them to create a little canvas, and the 3 cards creates a visual pattern, and then completely unrelated to that visual pattern, it also has a set of scoring criteria that will score, which is why I wrote it off. Because it seemed like the entire gimmick of the game was about a visual pattern that had nothing to do with the gameplay, and I was like, that just seems like a gimmick. And it is. It is a gimmick. But it's a gimmick that pulls people in. This Canvas over here has become one of my go-to games when I have non-gamers at the table who I want to pull them in. And one of the nice things about Canvas, by the way, is this game operates well at 2, but it operates well at a variety of player counts. But I don't think it suffers at 2, which is why it's on this list. I think Almanac the Dragon Road suffers a bit compared to 3. I think Canvas works equally well at 2 players as it does at 3 and 4, 5. It gets a little slow. But Canvas offers you the ability to build out your own canvas, to focus on the scoring, to focus on the art aspect of the gameplay, to enjoy it from that sense. But it also offers you the opportunity to approach it mechanically. You can try to play this game for the points, you can try to play this game for the fun, you can do whatever you want, and you can have fun while doing so. You can build the most delightful masterpieces anyone at the table has ever seen, or you can just go for the most efficient point scoring. The game is easy enough to understand, it's rewarding enough for its complexity, the scoring criteria in the game are present, and it's just compelling. It's a very compelling game, which makes this my number 8. My number 7 is going to be Patchwork. My number 7 is Patchwork over here. I'm just making sure I have 6 others. I do have 6 others. My number 7 is Patchwork, and Patchwork from Uwe Rosenberg is really, really good. Like, it holds up. This game holds up. It's a 2-player polyomino game. It's possibly the first polyomino game I played. Polyomino games are going to be games that have little Tetris-shaped pieces that you're utilizing to do something. Something is going to vary game by game. Anything from Patchwork, from Baron Park, from Foundations of Rome to Planet Unknown. Any of these polyomino games will have different ways that you score for your little Tetris-y pieces. But in Patchwork, you're basically trying to cover your quilt. This pattern you see over here, that's the quilt you're trying to cover. You're going to be laying all of these pieces onto your quilt in order to get buttons. Buttons are going to be the recurring revenue, the income you use every round in order to buy more tokens, and the time is another factor as well. And you're trying to manage the economy of the buttons and the economy of your time and the economy of where you're going in turn order to take the right pieces and put them down on your board, being mindful of your button economy, being mindful of how well you cover up your board. The game is incredibly simple, incredibly rewarding. I've had this in my collection for years and it still holds up. This is a game that I'm always happy to pull out and play. It is not my favorite game, not by a long shot. This is not Alex Radcliffe's top 10 2-player games of all time. This is Alex Radcliffe's top 10 coupley games of all time. I find Patchwork really holds up well. It just does a good job. It is engaging. And if you want it, there's like 14 other variations out there as far as the themes they have. They have Halloween and Valentine's Day and 14 other regional themes you can get your hands on if you like Patchwork and you want variety in the sake of the art or whatnot. I say art or whatnot because they may be gameplay changes and I just don't know about them. But the art's certainly different, I can tell you that much. And that's Patchwork, my number 7. My number 6 is actually possibly... My number 6, I think, is my favorite game from these. But it's not my highest ranked in terms of approaching this from the way I'm approaching it. My number 6 is going to be Skulls of Sedlec. Very likely my favorite game on this table, with one possible exception. Skulls of Sedlec is delightful. This is a 2-player game from Button Shy Games. Button Shy Games makes these little wallet games with 18 cards, fits over here, you travel with it, you put it in your backpack, put it in your pocket, do what you want with it, wherever you want with it. This is just, that's their goal, that's the whole mission statement. And Skulls of Sedlec is the favorite game, is my favorite game from the games they have. They have a lot of good games, a lot of good 2-player games. They have Sprawlopolis, which is more solo, but still good. We have Circle the Wagons, phenomenal game. And then we have Skulls of Sedlec, my favorite Button Shy game to date. I love and adore this game. And I love and adore it more when you add in the various expansions too, because there are expansions to add in. I don't just have this single wallet. I have this wallet, another wallet, and then still extra cards, because that's not enough space. I need a box for this game. And then I need an extra copy in a wallet for when I travel with it. Skulls of Sedlec is a scoring game. I mean, many games are scoring games. That didn't really tell you that much. But Skulls of Sedlec is a game about trying to figure out the scoring criteria when you have these little characters. Each of these characters, there's going to be 6 different characters in the base game, I think number 6. And then more as you continue to add the various expansions. And each character has a scoring criteria. The problem is the characters are on the table face down. And you have little stacks of cards. You turn over the cards. You choose one. You add it to your hand. Then you lay one down onto the table. Well, taking turns one at a time. But when it's your next turn, you can lay it down on the table, starting to build a pyramid. And this pyramid matters because everything scores differently in the pyramid. Some things score based on the level they are, and some things score based on adjacency. Some things score based on what's below them. Some things score based on just them being themselves. And you have to try to balance that puzzle. You have to try to balance the puzzle of what needs to be adjacent to what needs to be below what needs to be touching one another, what needs to not be touching one another as you build out your pyramid and try to gather the right cards. It is simple, it is compelling, it is engaging. I find this is a game that generally works well with most people I play it with. Some people like it more than others, which is why it's a little low on this list, because for me, this is possibly my favorite game here. But as a general note for people or others or whatnot, I find this game works well, and it hits well, and it lands well. And it's cheap too, assuming you're getting just the base game, it's cheap as well. I love Skulls of Sedlec. I find it rewarding, simple, portable, affordable, engaging, and just an amazing experience, especially as you add in expansions. My number 5 is one of like 2 cooperative games. I realized as I was putting together this list that I didn't have much in the way of cooperative experiences, and I think cooperative experiences often do have good overlap with, well, coupley experiences, or 2-player experiences for that matter too. But I didn't choose this list based on cooperative. Maybe I'll do another top 10 cooperative games at some point. For right now, I chose this list based on what I think are the top 10 couple games that I can think of. And for that, I have Tranquility. Tranquility, which is a game that's rated decently. It's not rated as high as I would think, but it is such an enjoyable game. Like, I love Tranquility. Like, I adore this game. It's so much fun. And this is a game that I didn't really hear much about initially. They had a Kickstarter for Tranquility Ascent, and I looked into it, looked intriguing, so I picked up regular Tranquility while waiting for Ascent. And then I sat down and played it, and I love it. Now this game, if you've played The Mind, nope, that's not true. If you've played the game, Tranquility feels similar. And yes, there is a game called The Game, in case you didn't know what I'm talking about. There's a game called The Game. Makes it very hard to search for, but Tranquility feels like a better version of that to me. In Tranquility, you're laying out a row of cards. You're laying out a pattern or a grid of cards, a 6x6 grid, and you have to fill that 6x6 grid with the 80 cards over here. And if you're anything like me, you're thinking 6x6, that's only 36 cards. What's the challenge of putting 36 cards out of 80 into that 6x6 grid? There's multiple challenges. The first is every time a card touches one another, you have to discard other cards. If I put a 37 next to a 36, I have to discard 2 cards because that's the gap between the numbers. Which means if you're doing the math now, you're thinking, well, at a minimum, you have to discard 1 card per card. That means your 36 is now up to 72. Now it seems a little tighter. You only have 8 cards leeway. How do you make this work? Well, the answer is if you play it efficiently, then there's times you don't actually have to discard 1 card per average. You could probably get it a little lower. You can figure it out. But plus, there's also the starting cards and the finish cards. And you have to make sure those go in at the right time in the right order, and being mindful of the discards of those at the same time. And then, of course, there's the expansion modules you have in the game at the same time. Expansion modules that will give you different things like rocks or sea monsters or different things to be mindful of that will further mix up the game. It's a fun, simple, engaging, cooperative challenge of limited communication, which might make it not right for you. If you don't like limited communication games, this is limited communication. Limited communication does not mean you cannot talk to one another. It means you cannot say what you have in your hand. Have fun, have a good conversation, talk about the weather or what a good game Skulls of Sedlec is, while putting down your next card as your opponent, not your opponent, your teammate, groans with the realization that you just put down the worst possible thing for them and they may as well throw out their entire hand. It is challenging, it is tight, but it also manages to be relaxing and enjoyable at the same time. I really enjoy Tranquility. A solid game. I have not played Tranquility Ascent yet. You can bet I will when it shows up at my door. But for right now, Tranquility is an excellent game. My number 4. I'm realizing now I have like 3 games that are possibly my favorite. My number 4 is another game that might be one of my favorites here, which is Cascadia. I like Cascadia. In fact, I probably like it more than Skulls of Sedlec, so I probably should take that thing back over there. Although there's still one more game in high contention over here. I did pick games I like, so sue me. Cascadia, from, illustrated by Beth Solo, designed by Randy Flynn, from AEG and Flat Out Games, or Flat Out Games, distributed by AEG. Cascadia is my favorite Flat Out Games design, and it's one that continues to hit every single time I play it. Cascadia is a game of building patterns, not that different than Skulls of Sedlec, although inherently very, very different than Skulls of Sedlec, but the core premise is the same. The core premise is you select something that you think is likely to optimize your points as efficiently as possible. Honestly, this is probably similar to Spirits of the Wild 2 to a degree. To a degree, not excessively, maybe Canvas 2, a little bit to a degree. You try to pick something that will be as efficient for your score as possible in Cascadia. But specifically what you're taking is a tile, a landmark tile, a terrain tile, as well as an animal on the terrain tile, and you're trying to match them up into your grid as you load them up. Trying to be mindful of the scoring bonuses for the way you're going to build out your terrain in the board, as well as each animal has their own scoring card, which varies game to game. Not as much variety as I'd like, although I hear they're working on options or things there, so we'll see what comes next. But for me, those games, the opportunity, as you place those cards and tiles down, trying to factor in the various scoring objectives of the terrain and the cards for each animal, offers a puzzle, a compelling puzzle, a rewarding puzzle, and one in which you're doing your own thing. There's competition over taking the bear combined with that tile. There is some competition, but the competition is limited because at the end of the day, you are building your own area. So other players can't mess with you in your area. They can just take the thing that you want, which can be frustrating, but not as frustrating as having someone completely tank the things that you're building towards. It's incredibly satisfying to start building out your grid and being mindful of the various animals, being mindful of the points, trying to work towards the end game as you realize slowly but surely eventually tiles are running out and the game is coming to a close and you have not fully encircled that grouping of animals and your salmon run is not quite as long as you want it to be and your eagles aren't lined up the way you need it and you only have 2 turns, so you can only fix 2 of those 3 problems with those 2 turns, and that's only if the right things come out, which means you're in a tough spot now and you're trying to figure out whether you can win or your opponents are also in tough spots. I love Cascadia. It's delightful. It offers a puzzle. It offers a constriction of everything that you're trying to build, and you have to focus your energy and attention towards specific patterns that you think will optimize most efficiently around the game. And yet it's easy to play. It's light. It's engaging. The rules are not that complicated, and what you're doing, what you're building, is rewarding and fun at the same time. These games, while they are gateway to a degree, while they are on the lighter side, does not mean they don't have strategy behind them. It just means that they're compelling enough to dive into at any skill level and still have a good time. And speaking of diving into at any skill level and having a good time, one of the bigger boxes on the table, my number 3, is going to be Railroad Inc. Railroad Inc. only this large because of the fact that we have all of this stuff over here. In theory, if you wanted to, if I can get this out over here, if you wanted to, you could just have this, and this could be your only Railroad Inc. Or any of the boxes in here. Not really any, because some of them are more expansion material. But there's 4 core boxes. There's green, yellow, blue, and red. And then there's a whole bunch of expansion material. And Railroad Inc. is offering you one of my favorite roll and write experiences. I say one of my favorite because there's really a lot of my favorite roll and write experiences. But Railroad Inc. specifically gives you one of the more accessible and enjoyable and variable roll and write experiences. I have yet to play a game of Railroad Inc. that I haven't enjoyed. The core puzzle of Railroad Inc. is you roll a bunch of dice, and everyone has to make use of the same dice in different ways, ideally. You have your own little grid, your own little connection of stations, your own little things that you're trying to min-max your way towards whatever scoring objectives you want to get, and you're all using the same rolls. So as your dice are rolled, you have to figure out, I'm going to use this straight here, you're going to use that road here, that railway here, and you have these connections you're going for, and you have the scoring criteria you're going for, and then you have the nuances and differences between each individual set you're using, whether it's the way the extra dice score, whether it's the challenge cards you have in the red and green modules, or whether it's any of the expansions mixed in. There's a ton of stuff going on here, but again, don't let the box intimidate you. If you're intrigued by anything I'm saying about Railroad Inc., just get one of the small boxes. I am a big fan of, well, all of them. Yeah, all of them. I'm a big fan of all of them. I've played all of the core basic boxes so far, and I don't know if I have a strong favorite. because I like blue. Blue's probably, no, they're all good. They're all good. I like them all. They all offer slight differences to what the experience is, but they ultimately come down to rolling dice, assigning those dice to your board, trying to do so better and more efficiently than your opponents, and doing so in a way that is both rewarding while allowing for the opportunity and the skill of whatever challenge you're trying to create. My number 2 was on the list last time. In fact, as far as games that were on the list last time, I don't remember which ones made it. Numbers 2 and 1 were both on the list last time. Patchwork may have been, I don't recall. I didn't have Railroad Ink last time. I had Welcome to instead. I think Railroad Ink has surpassed Welcome to for me, which is why it's replaced that one over here. But numbers 1 and 2 were both on my top 10 couples games 2 years ago when I did this list last. And the numbers 1 and 2 because I think they're still that good at being on this list. Number 2 is going to be Unlock. Not specifically any of these, and honestly, not even specifically Unlock. You could pick another escape room series. The Exit game is going to be the most popular, common other escape room series out there, although there are a variety of other ones out there. Although do your research, because I still think Exit and Unlock are the cream of the crop, the best of the best when it comes to escape rooms. I think there are a lot of other escape room and or mystery and or adjacent genre games that will offer you variable levels of enjoyment, but I would stick with Exit and Escape Room, Exit and Unlock until you know otherwise, until you've done your own research extensively, because, I mean, they've been this good for a reason. They've been around this long and continue to have this many for a reason, and my personal favorite is the Unlock series, although I do have a bunch of Exit games that I'm supposed to go through because someone sent me a bunch, because he's like, I bet you're going to like these more than Unlock, Alex, and I was like, well, let's find out. But, Unlock. What is Unlock? Unlock is a little escape room in a box. That's what it is. In fact, this Unlock is 3 escape rooms in a box. You have a set of cards, generally around 60, 70 cards. I don't know the exact number, but somewhere in that range. And then you basically start flipping over cards. And you flip over the cards with specific rules as to what you are and are not allowed to flip over, but you're crafting a narrative. You're crafting images, a story, what's happening in this world. Are you trapped in a submarine? Are you in a haunted house? Did someone start, sending you off Alice in Neverland and Wonderland, Alice in somewhere else? Where does Alice go? Oz. Alice in Oz. Is it Oz? No. It's the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, it's Oz. It is Oz, yeah. Anyways, but you have these escape rooms here, and they crafts a narrative through pictures, and it crafts a narrative through the app that you have, and then there's rules around what you do. How do you progress to the next card? If you find an image on a card, maybe you can find another card. If you go here, it'll tell you, grab these 3 cards instead. If you manage to put together those 2 clues, maybe you get a little buzzer and a zap, and you lose 2 minutes on the timer, or maybe you find other cards instead. It's a combination of logic, of looking, of figuring things out, mostly logic, a little bit of looking, and a lot of figuring things out as you try to basically work together with other people in this escape room style game. Unlock games can be played solo. They can be played 3, 4, 5 players, but for me, they do thrive at 2. I find solo, it's just my own mind and presence there. I'm not working collaboratively with someone else. At 3, it's okay. Not the best for me, but it's okay. At 4, it starts getting messy because you're just trying to hand around cards to people, and there's too many cards, and you start losing track of who saw what, who did what, and who contributed what to which puzzle. 2 for me is where Unlock shines. 2 for me is where it shines as an experience where I can work together collaboratively with someone else to do what I need to do, to solve the puzzles I need to solve, to have someone else to bounce ideas off of, to have their shared world experience jumping into the mix as they solve a puzzle, as they see a pattern I didn't see, as they put together a code that I didn't know, as I see that combination that they missed. I love escape rooms in general. And I would say if you like escape rooms in general, you should pay attention to the Unlock series, because I think, or the Unlock or Exit or many others, but start with those 2. I think they will give you a very reasonably priced escape room experience that does not disappoint. Which brings me to my number 1, which was definitely here last time, and that's Codenames Duet. Codenames Duet, specifically Duet in this case because we're talking about a couple of experiences. I'm a huge fan of Codenames. To date, Codenames remains my favorite party game that I have, I want to say, ever played. It holds up, it offers me laughs, it offers me strategy, it offers me variety to no end. Codenames as an experience simply works. Where other party games let me down, where other party games either aren't fun or are fun, but then you start running into the same cards again and again, you start using the same patterns again and again. Codenames is infinitely variable, or not technically infinitely variable, but near infinitely variable. You will never really have the same combination, and every combination you have. You can have the exact same combination of cards in the exact order on the table, but the different clue card changes the entire puzzle and changes the way you have to approach that puzzle. Because Codenames is about connecting cards. When you have a bunch of cards on the table, you have to connect certain ones. And that means in one game, if you have horse, sheep, and cow, and they're all on the same team, that's a very easy clue for you. But the other game, if you have horse and sheep on one team and cow on the other, that totally changes the conversation. How do you address that? How do you connect horse and sheep while leaving cow off the table? Maybe you wait till your opponent's team gets cow, but maybe cow's a neutral card. Maybe cow's going to throw you off the entire time. It is a different puzzle every time you play, and it's a puzzle that offers you laughs. It's a puzzle that offers you blame. You're going to have the blame to it. It's a puzzle that offers you just the general experience of people having a good time together, figuring out clues. Now, you could play it in teams with regular Codenames, but this is a coupley game list, so we have Codenames Duet, which to me has never failed to deliver a fun time. I have never played this game and not enjoyed myself, which makes it hard for me to not include it on this list. And while I have played it in a non-coupley atmosphere, I've played it with my kids, I've played it with other players, I've played it in just general 2 players, and this is not have to be a couples list in the slightest, it's just framed that way. But for me, Codenames has thrived as a couples game at the same time. It has given me so many ridiculously enjoyable, good experiences with memories, with fun, with laughs, with blame, and with strategy all at the same time. I really highly recommend Codenames Duet. And that's my list. That's my list of 10 lighter, more gateway-adjacent coupley games. I will be doing another one. I don't know if I'll be doing 2. I don't know if I'll be doing another 2 of these. I for sure will do at least one more. The question is whether I divide it up into 2 categories of medium and heavy, or I just go straight for medium and heavy in a single list. That depends on my mood and what other games I pick off the shelf. But we'll see. I hope you enjoyed this list. I hope you found it helpful. If you want any of these games, I mean, these are great games that are worth checking out. I've had a lot of good memories with every single one of these, and I highly encourage you to check them out if you're looking for more good 2-player experiences in your life. And until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.